Gopi Janavallabha Gimaradari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Gimaradari Pijanavallabha Jasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanacharim Jamuna Tira Vanacharim Jamuna Tira Vanacharim Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Go Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Go Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Radhanath, Radha Radhanath, Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Gaura Hare, Gaura Hare, Gaura Hare, Jaya Gaura Hare. Reta Go Haribo, 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 God Haribo. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Gurudev. Chayam Vishnupad Paramamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Stotra Sri Smat His Divine Grace Aisi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavan Ki Sri Sri Radharanath Ki Sri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Summer Book Marathon Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Sri Isopanisad Ki Bhakti Vedanta Purports Ki Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Guru and Gauranga. Lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. Om Jnana Timrindasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumalitam Jaina Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunath Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyahevacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So welcome to this Sunday morning class, the Isopanisad class. This is the last verse in this book, Isopanisad, text 18. So the Isopanisad is very thoroughly researched dissertations of the entire Vedic scripture. And Prabhupada encouraged us to study this book very scrutinizingly. As being preachers, he wanted us to be preachers, so he recommended one of the 4 books is this Isopanisad, and the Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, and the Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. So these 4 books, if one is sufficiently trained and assimilated, then only going through the Bhakti Shastri courses online or live, and then one can be a very accomplished preacher. Just these 4 books, getting knowledge of these 4 books. So this Upanishad is very, very deep. It's very, very philosophical. And we have to read it sometimes over and over to get the gist of what to make of it. We'll read this last verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Agnenaya Supataraya Hasman Vishvani Deva Vayunani Vidvan Yayod Yasmaj Jururuna Meno Bu Ishtum Te Nama Uktim Videma. We'll do the word for word. Agne, O my Lord, as powerful as fire, Naya, kindly lead Supata by the right path, Rahe, for reaching you, Asman, Has, Vishwani, all, Deva, O my Lord, Vayunani, actions, Vidvan, the knower, Yuhodi, kindly remove Asmat from us, Juhuranam, all hindrances on the path, Aina, all vices, Bu Buyishtam, most numerous. Te, unto you. Namaha, Uktim, Nama Uktim, words of obeisances. Videma, I do. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances, falling on the ground at your feet. O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all of that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. You can repeat responsibly. O my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances, falling on the ground at your feet. O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I've done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. By surrendering to the Lord and praying for His causeless mercy, the devotee can progress on the path of complete self-realization. The Lord is addressed as fire because He can burn anything into ashes, including the sins of the surrendered soul. As described in the previous mantras, the real or ultimate aspect of the Absolute is His feature as the personality of God. As recommended in this mantra, at once surpasses all preliminary stages simply by adopting the devotional attitude. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 1866, the Lord at once takes charge of such a surrendered soul and frees him from all reactions to his sinful acts. There are many sinful reactions involved in karma kanda activities, whereas in jnana kanda, the path of philosophical development, the number of such sinful activities is smaller. But in devotional service to the Lord, the path of bhakti, there is practically no chance of incurring sinful reactions. One who is a devotee of the Lord attains all the good qualifications of the Lord Himself. What to speak of those of a Brahmana? A devotee automatically attains the qualifications of an expert Brahmana, authorized to perform sacrifices, even though the devotee may not have taken his birth in a Brahmana family. Such is the omnipotence of the Lord. He can make a man born in a Brahmin family as degraded as a low-born dog-eater, and he can also make a low-born dog-eater superior to a qualified Brahmana, simply on the strength of devotional service. Since the omnipotent Lord is situated within the heart of everyone, He can give directions to His sincere devotees by which they can attain the right path. Such directions are especially offered to the devotee, even if he desires something else. As far as others are concerned, God gives sanction to the doer only at the risk of the doer. But in the case of devotee, the Lord directs him in such a way that he never acts wrongly. The Srimad Bhagavatam 11th Canto, chapter 5, text 42 says, Svapadamulam bhajata priyasya chaktena bhavasya hari paresha vikarmayat chat patitam katanchid dunoti sarvam ridisa nivishta. The Lord is so kind to the devotee who is fully surrendered to His lotus feet that even though the devotee sometimes falls into the entanglement of vikarma, acts against the Vedic directions, the Lord at once rectifies such mistakes from within his heart. This is because the devotees are very dear to the Lord. In this mantra of Sri Isopanisad, the devotee prays to the Lord to rectify him from within his heart. To err is human. A conditioned soul is very apt to commit mistakes, and the only remedial measure to take against such unintentional sin is to give oneself up to the lotus feet of the Lord so that He may guide one to avoid such pitfalls. The Lord takes charge of fully surrendered souls. Thus, all problems are solved simply by surrendering oneself unto the Lord and acting in terms of His directions. Such directions are given to the sincere devotee in two ways. One is by way of the saints, scriptures, and spiritual master, and the other is by way of the Lord Himself, who resides within the heart of everyone. Thus, the devotee, fully enlightened with Vedic knowledge, is protected in all respects. Vedic knowledge is transcendental and cannot be understood by mundane educational procedures. One can understand the Vedic mantras only by the grace of the Lord and the spiritual master. Yasya deva para bhakti, yatha deva tata guru. If one takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, it is understood that he has obtained the grace of the Lord. The Lord appears as a spiritual master for the devotee. Thus, the spiritual master, the Vedic injunctions, and the Lord Himself from within all guide the devotee in full strength. In this way, there is no chance for a devotee to fall again into the maya of material illusion. The devotee, thus protected all around, is sure to reach the ultimate destination of perfection. The entire process is hinted at in this mantra, and Srimad Bhagavatam 1:17-20 explains it further. Hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord is itself an act of piety. The Lord wants everyone to hear and chant His glories because He is the well-wisher of all living entities. By hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, one becomes cleansed of all undesirable things, and one's devotion becomes fixed upon the Lord. At this stage, the devotee acquires the Brahmanical qualifications and the effects of the lower modes of nature. Passion and ignorance completely vanish. The devotee, Jai Sri Sri Radharanath Ki Jai. At this stage, the devotee acquires the Brahmanical qualifications and the effects of the lower modes of nature, namely passion and ignorance, completely vanish. The devotee becomes fully enlightened by virtue of his devotional service, and thus he comes to know the path of the Lord and the way to attain Him. As all doubts diminish, he becomes a pure devotee. Thus ends the Bhaktivinoda purports to Sri Isopanisad, the knowledge that brings one nearer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So Upanishad also translates as Upaniti, means talks between the disciple and spiritual master, who is sitting in close proximity to hear this transcendental knowledge, Upanishad. And Bhagavad Gita is also part of it's called Gita Upanishad. Another name for Bhagavad Gita is Gita Upanishad. It was this dialogue between spiritual master and disciple Arjuna and Sri Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the Nectar of Devotion, Sri Rupa Goswami, in the very beginning, he describes the characteristics of when one takes to devotional service, what is the symptoms of what he experiences. And he says the first experience he has is that he becomes free from this suffering. As he said, of sinful reactions. There's a gradual kind of freedom one can feel is lessening his sinful or karmic reactions when he starts to chant Hare Krishna. We all may have experienced that. Isn't all our anxieties of material life, they gradually diminish, and we feel a sense of protection, a sense of joy, real happiness, as opposed to the happiness we try to eke out in material life. Material life, the happiness is all adulterated. We try to seek out happiness by some artificial means, because that is not the real enjoyment of the soul. The soul is encased in this material body, and it's kind of trapped in this conditioned state. And therefore it's crying out, like in this verse, it's remembering his actual nature. And he's praying wonderful prayers, how the Lord should remember him. So the Rupa Goswami stressed that it brings relief from sinful reaction. One of the first we experience of the 6 characteristics of devotional service when we practice, it brings immediate relief. It brings immediate relief from this karmic reactions that we meant to suffer all. And the sinful reactions are not just straightforward, they are very deep. Isn't the Prabhupada quotes from the Padma Purana. Aparabda phalam papam. Aparabda phala papam. Kutam bijam phalon mukham. Kramaneva prailayata. Vishnu bhaktim ratatmanam. He says, for those who engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Person of Godhead, all sinful reactions, whether fructified, sinful that we are bearing fruit now that we are experiencing, they're coming to the fore, they're bearing fruit, whether they in stock, they're lying there accumulating more and more, or in the form of seed, bija. Seed means every time we do something or act against the scripture, we are planting a seed. And that seed will ferment into some reaction for the future. So it's like a hopeless situation. This karmic reactions, which just binds us to this material world, plus the modes of nature, also adding to that, fuel to that, isn't it, in whatever mode we are situated in, whether it's goodness, passion, or ignorance, tamagun. Therefore, when we start our devotional practice, then we feel this sense of tangible, sense of relief. We feel that. And therefore, when we feel that, then we always want to experience that. It's like an ongoing, isn't it? We don't want to go back to that of suffering, although we may appear to be suffering. But that we'll discuss that in later. How in Lord Brahma's prayers, in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto, very wonderful prayers. Lord Brahma is praying there. Tate nukampam shushamik shamano bunjane vatma vikritam vikapam ridvak vapubi vidadam namaste jiveta yo mukti pada sadayabak. Says, my dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offers you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful flame. And the purport, Srila Swami gives a wonderful purport to that. He says, just as a legitimate son has to simply stay alive to inherit, to get the inheritance from his father, the one who simply remains alive in Krishna consciousness, following the regular principles of Bhakti Yoga, and automatically becomes eligible to receive the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Shushamikṣamana indicates that a devotee earnestly awaits the mercy of the Supreme Personal Godhead while suffering the painful effects of previous sinful activities. The Lord explains in Bhagavad Gita that a devotee who fully surrenders unto him is no longer liable to suffer the reactions of his previous karma. Lord is saying, Ma suchaha, do not fear. Isn't? In that concluding verse of Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharma Parijaja Mamakam Sharanam Vacha. Ma sucha, do not fear. Is this a guarantee that when we fully surrender to the Lord, He will protect us? That's what He's saying. Do not, ma sucha, do not fear. I will protect you. Yeah, in Bhagavad Gita, the devotee who fully surrenders unto Him is no longer liable to suffer the reactions of his previous karma. However, a devotee in his mind may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality. The Lord removes the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit in the living entity. By giving his devotee punishment that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. So sometimes when people, the skeptics, you all are devotees, how come you're going through all this suffering? Why are you all suffering in terms of the body, in terms of sickness? Don't they question like that? Why are you going through this? Or some financial or some whatever in the material, seemingly like it's. But actually, yeah, the Srila Swami is saying that the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit, by giving him a devotee punishment that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. The purpose of entire creation of God is to rectify the living entity's tendency to enjoy separately from Him. Therefore, He created this material world to give us a chance to rectify our mistakes. As He said, to err is human. And one of the frailties of the living entity, especially the human being, is that he has this defect of making mistakes. Early on in the Upanishad, in the beginning, Prabhupada introduces that the 4 defects of the living entity, or the human being especially, that he's prone to make mistakes, he's prone to cheat, he comes under illusion, and he has imperfect senses. That's in a conditioned state. Therefore, the endowed with these shortcomings or these defects, what is the recourse? One has to surrender to some person who's free from that. This is the pivotal role of the spiritual master, or the revealed scriptures to help the living entity, provided he takes shelter of that process, or the regulative principles of the revealed scriptures. You cannot say, God help me, and just sit back. Isn't God helps those who help themselves, as the saying goes, isn't? You cannot just remain inactive and wait for something to come upon you. No, we have to make the effort. We have to make the effort to get the mercy, to get And sometimes mercy may come in different doses. Like we read in here, the mercy, the Lord's mercy seems like harsh punishment. The purpose of the entire creation of God is to rectify the living entity's tendency to enjoy separately from the Lord. And therefore, the particular punishment given for a sinful activity is specifically designed to curtail the mentality that produced the activity. So, the body wants to enjoy, the mind wants to enjoy. Because this body, Prabhupada says, is a bad bargain. When we take a material body, means we have a bad bargain. Yeah, because we have to contend with bad, death, disease, old age, mrityu, death, vyadi, disease, janma, birth, janma, vyadi, mrityu. What's the last one? Birth, death, disease, old age, jara. We all forget we're getting old. We're in denial, isn't it? Even about death, we're in denial. About dying, about getting disease. But that's the nature of the material body. We can't avoid that. Prabhupada was saying we have a bad bargain, and to add to that, we have to tolerate the threefold miseries, the kleshas of Adi-Atmik, Adi-Bautik, Adi-Devik. These also, the threefold sufferings are there. Like yesterday was very hot, isn't it? And we complain, no, it's too hot. Today is nice and cool. But still we complain, oh, the rain, too much rain. Or in some places, extreme places, there's, like in the northern countries, there's snow and blizzards and floods. All kind. That's the nature of this world. We cannot avoid it. Wherever we go, that's the nature of this world. Dukkhalayam, shashvatam. Krishna is keep on reminding us. Dukkhalayam, shashvatam. It is miserable. It is temporary. It is miserable. So what is the recause? How to make the best use of a bad bargain. With the living entity, it is said that he has developed consciousness and he has the ability to make inquiries. Isn't? If he's not using that ability to understand these things, then he's no better than the animal. Because animals also have consciousness. All the 8,400,000 species of life, they're all conscious. But there's degrees of consciousness. Right from the aquatics, the tree, the plants, and going up the scale, the animals and the different species of life, and culminating in this human form of life. So human form of life means we have the most developed consciousness. Most developed consciousness means that we can make inquiry, we can rationalize what is right, what is wrong. Who are we? Where are we going from here? Who is God? What is my relationship with God? We have to make these inquiries. Why are we suffering? Why are some people better off than others? Why? We can make all these inquiries, isn't it? So this bad bargain is there, but how to make the best use of a bad bargain is to come to some realization about this human form. What is this? What's the purpose? And the analogy is given that the human form is compared to a boat, isn't it? Like a boat. And you need somebody to ply the boat. You need some responsible person who knows the knowledge of the navigation skills and the weather, And so you need a spiritual master. He's the captain of the boat. Then you need the favorable winds to ply the boat, isn't it? The boat has sails but you need, what are the favorable winds compared to? The revealed scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Isopanisad, and the teachings of the acharyas, the spiritual, these are favorable winds to ply the boat. And this ocean, what is this ocean compared to? Nescience. Prabhupada used the word nescience. It is Timarandasya, Agyan, ignorance, darkness. So we need this boat with the captain, with the favorable winds, to cross this ocean of nescience. That's the goal of human life, not to just linger in this material world. That's not our purpose. God created this material world for us to rectify ourselves, to rectify our wrongs. Therefore he's saying the particular punch given for a sinful act is specifically designed to curtail the mentality that produced the activity. Although a devotee has surrendered to the Lord's devotional service, until he is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness, he may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness of this world. We cannot escape that, isn't it? Srila Prabhupada, he says, as long as you have this material body, the desire to enjoy the senses will always be there. For how long? Till you die. Till we die. The senses will always agitate us. Even in an advanced stage of practicing Krishna consciousness, the senses will always give us problems. They'll always. Maya is always testing us. Even in advanced stage. Therefore you see sometimes great yogis, throughout our history, we see that fall down from such elevated positions. They fall down due to the strong material energy. It's always there. So we should not be very mindful of that. There is always a chance that we can succumb to this. To err is human. We will make mistakes, yes. But the important thing is to show remorse. Like Krishna is saying in the famous verse in Bhagavad Gita, Apichet Sudaracharo. That even if one commits the most abominable, if one is rightly situated, then he is still a devotee. Sadhu eva samantavya. He is still a sadhu. Even if he commits the most abominable, what is the most abominable one can do? Kill your guru. Isn't it? Kill the cow. Kill the bull. These are most abominable. But still, one can get reprieve from that if he shows some remorse. One can become purified of that. And Srila Prabhupada says, the material energy is so strong. It is so strong that even if somebody on that can also succumb by some slight tinge of not being careful, carelessness, he can fall down. Yes, he can fall down. But still, Krishna is excusing that devotee can rectify himself. He has that hope. That devotee can. Krishna's confidence in that devotee, that he will rectify himself. Same with the spiritual master. The spiritual master, he will take on, due to his merciful nature, he will take on even the most fallen for the purpose of rectifying them. He will take that risk. He's prepared to take that risk. Therefore, Krishna is compared to fire. Fire can purify anything. And in his nectar, the word apapa vidam. Apapa vidam, the Lord is compared He can purify anything. Even when he shines, the sun shines on dirty places where there's stool and urine or unmentionable things, but still the Lord doesn't become affected by that, does He? On the contrary, He can purify such places. He can cleanse it. So the representative of God also is a papa vidam. It can take on that and rectify that person. Is also considered. And we, just by the association of such persons, can also become pure. Just by association of pure devotees, we become pure ourselves. Just like the iron, the analogy is given of the iron and the fire. The iron, when put into fire for a long period, it takes on the qualities of the fire. Right? It takes on all the qualities of the fire. Just by association with the fire, the iron gets the qualities of the fire. So likewise, when we in all our misgivings, or we may think how fallen we are, but just by associating or taking the association of those who are pure, we'll also become pure at some stage. And all our sinful reactions, they become gradually, they disintegrate. They disintegrate. So this is the potency of devotional service, of bhakti, the process of bhakti, because it has no, like Rupa Goswami describes, anya bilasita sunyam. He defines what is pure devotional service. Right in the beginning of the nectar. Anya bilasita sunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishna anushilanam bhakti uttama. The topmost devotional service, bhakti uttama, starts when one becomes freed from mental speculation or the desire for fruitive results. Jnana karma anavritam. Or some process of mechanical processes of, or adi means other processes of that fall short of pure devotional service. And it must be anukul, means pleasing. It must be pleasing. Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam. Krishnanushilanam means those things that are associated with the Supreme Lord. Is paraphernalia, the devotees of the Lord, the spiritual master, the land, the land of the birth of the Lord, the holy places. They are all related to Krishna Anushilanam. When one goes and does penances, he goes to all the holy places, takes bath in the Ganges, Jamuna, Radhakund. Gradually one becomes cleansed. Yes, gradually. So we continue with this. Although he may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness of this world, the Lord therefore creates a particular situation to eradicate the remaining enjoying spirit. This unhappiness suffered by a sincere devotee is not technically a karmic reaction, at least not for the devotee. The skeptics may see like the devotee is going through some suffering, and they may criticize the Lord or the process, this Krishna consciousness. They may say so many things. Why don't you worship some demigod who's like we'd see during the when is that? Kavadi time. They buy different kinds of jewelry for the eyes, and they go, if they're suffering, they have a high ailment, they go and pray to some demigod in charge of that, or they have some digestive problem, or they take vows like that. But I And they go like through a month of very stringent fasting and, right? I know I had an uncle like that. During this, he would fast and like very serious about it. And then he would take this kavadi. But say after that, they go back to the old ways. So, what is that? Prayaschita means atonement. And Maj Parikit questions that. He says, what is the use of atonement, or prayaschita, if one does not give the desire to give up sinful activity? Atonement means we try to atone, we do something and we try to atone it by doing some tapasya, then, but we go on carrying on, recurring, isn't the same week in, week out. That's not the real cure. The real cure is to remove it from the heart. The desire to give up sinful activity must be there, because it is very strongly entrenched in the heart. The desire to give it up must be there. Otherwise, we'll never give it up. No matter how many hundreds of austerity we perform, but if the desire is not there to give it up, then you'll just be languishing in this material world, recurring the same thing over and over. So, only by this process of devotional service, and one comes to God realization or self-realization of his goal. Yeah, so rather it is the Lord's special mercy for inducing his devotee to completely let go of the material world and return home back to Godhead. So when we get some token reaction of what we meant to get, isn't? We get some token reaction. But the devotee, he sees this not as suffering, he sees it as the mercy of the Lord, like this prayer by Lord Brahma. Wonderful prayers. And I wish you all could read that in the 10th canto. Wonderful prayers, and it all applies to all of us. We'll be all going through some, isn't? We all are going through some upheaval in life, and all of us. So the goal is to return home, back to Godhead. A sincere devotee earnestly desires to go back to the Lord's abode. Therefore, he willingly accepts the Lord's merciful punishment and continues offering respectful obeisance to the Lord with his heart, words, and body. Such a bona fide servant of the Lord, considering all hardships, a small price to pay. A small price to pay for what he's going to get. What is the price? For gaining the personal association of the Lord, certainly becomes a legitimate son of God. So considering all that, the mature, the pure devotee, the mature devotees, they see all this as whatever they're going through, whether it's cancer, leukemia, or sometimes they forget the memory loss is there. It's such painful things because it's to do with the body. It is to do with the body. But the pure devotee sees this as mercy to give up this last vestiges of the enjoying spirit is there. I remember when Bhakti Tirtha Swami he had this thing on his toe. It was giving him a lot of pain. And if you saw him dancing, you remember him coming to South Africa? He would like run up and down with such energy And the hand is all like soaked, wet with perspiration. But he had so much gusto, and yet he was suffering that pain. And when the last stages of his life, he was actually praying to God to give him more pain. To give him more pain. Now, will you ask like that? You will ask to go to the best doctors to get cured. No, he was seeing it like that. Of course, there's many good, glaring examples of these pure devotees around who are actually going through some suffering, but they completely dependent on the Lord's mercy. His Holiness Kadambakana Swami, he refused to take any treatment. And he's gone to Vrindavan just to see his last stages of it. We don't know, only Krishna knows. But he's still very vibrant. He's preaching every day. We see all his posts of, going to all the holy dhams, chanting very profusely, with such vibrancy. You wouldn't think this man is on the verge of, or this person is going to leave. No. So, because we all are eternal by nature, just that when we identify with his body, then we have shortcomings. Oh, we're going to die now. No. But the pure devotee, he'll go on. He'll go on eternally. That's our position. That's our constitution, that we are eternal. Whatever happens to the body will happen anyway. Whether you treat it or you don't treat it, it's going to perish anyway. The vanity of taking care, of decorating this body, isn't making. It's just all in the mind. But when we have realization of our goal, so it's a small price to pay for gaining the personal association with the Lord, ultimately. Certainly becomes his legitimate son of God, as indicated by the words, Dayabak. That verse ends with the word Dayabak. Just as one cannot approach the sun without becoming fire. The sun is a fiery planet, isn't it? You cannot go there under normal circumstances. You have to have the type of body that can adapt to that, a fiery body. So it's just as it says, one cannot approach the sun without becoming fire. One cannot approach the Supreme Lord, Krishna, without undergoing a rigid purificatory process, which may appear like suffering, but which is in fact a curative treatment administered by the personal hand of God. Yeah. Time. Is there any questions or comments? Yes? Give it the mic. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you so much, Jai Prabhu. I have a question. So we were reading in the purport about how there are two different ways in which Krishna will correct his devotee. One is through Shastra and Guru, and the other is from within the heart, him personally. So I'm kind of seeing all three as being non-different, because we hear that book Bhagavatam and person Bhagavatam are non-different. So Guru and Shastra, they're non-different. And then also we hear about how Guru is actually the representation of the super soul, so he's also non-different from Krishna within the heart. But in the purport, we're not reading exactly about the super soul, but is it referring to the super soul? Because we also know that when a devotee actually loves Krishna, it's not the super soul seated in the heart, it's Krishna himself. Please clarify.
Yeah, good question. The super soul is also part of that desire. When one fulfills it, the super soul is also acting there. It's different. You are desiring the modes of nature, desiring, and the super soul. This is in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. There's 3 doers. And it's further in the 18th chapter also, the body, the different, a whole part of that desire. So the super soul plays a prominent role there also. He's either facilitating the desire, whether it's good or bad, because this is in everyone's heart. The criminal may desire also to rob somebody. Super soul is facilitating that desire, right? Or one may desire to come to the temple and be a devotee. The super soul is facilitating that because he's in the heart, he knows. At the same time, he remains neutral. That's in the 13th chapter describes the super soul as it doesn't interfere in the but it, like Prabhupada mentioned that we are independent we are not independent in making the business. The super soul is also there. But when somebody makes a desire to turn to Krishna, then the Lord takes full responsibility for that. Yes. The Lord will grant somebody, like a sinful person that he goes to hell, he will give him his blessings. And at the same time, he will give that person who comes to him the strength to come to him through inspiration, yes, through the super soul, via the super soul. We read in the 5th chapter the question of doership. Who is doing? You. There's 3 persons. You, the modes of nature, and the super soul. Yes. And it's further expanded in the 18th chapter. You read that? Okay. Hare Krishna.
And I was just also wondering if, in the case of our spiritual masters being a representation of the super soul, is it a case of Achinta Beta Beta Tattva where Guru is representing the super soul and he's the super soul at the same time that he is his individual self? Is it Achinta Beta Beta Tattva, or how can we understand that?
Well, it says the super soul is the external manifestation